I'm English, so I apologise about the accent. If you can't understand what I'm saying, please tell me. As an English guy, our standard policy to foreign people is we will just speak more slowly and shout until hopefully you understand. Okay, I have prepared 2 talks for you today. I've left some time at the end of the second talk for questions on both, and I'm also here all today and this evening. I get to work from home a lot, and weeks can go by without the chance to talk to another human being. So please do come up and talk to me. I need the practice. I hope you like the image. The original IDR logo was put together in 2000 when we did some work for the Times newspaper group. Miss IDR Stevens, as you can see her, is a lot bigger now. She's 13. But I'm still very fond of the image, and I like the slogan as well, so I still use it. As I said, I'm here to give you 2 talks. My brief was to provide 2 talks of interest to PDF developers. So I apologise to all the marketing people in the audience. I will try to explain some things. In the first talk, I will be talking about how a PDF file works and some of the gotchas involved. The PDF file format is very different from what most people expect and think it should be. A grasp of how it works will make your life much easier and let you play to its strengths. You'll also be able to have a good laugh when you jump onto Stack Overflow and read some of the questions, or the iText mailing list. In the second talk, I'm aiming to expand your horizons and also to be a little bit controversial. So I don't know whether I'll get thrown out halfway through the talk. If I do, I will put the slides on the website. They cannot stop me. I will speak. In both talks, I want to give you lots of facts and lots of things to think about. I don't want you to agree with everything I say, but I hope I will make you think. First, a brief intro on my background, so you know a little bit more about me, other than that I have a 13-year-old daughter who happens to have the same initials as the company and a rather strange sense of humour. Okay, Mark's bio. This is how I like to see myself. The obvious hero, totally laid back and in complete command of the situation, and hopefully gets to get the girls as well. And this is how the rest of my team at IDR Solutions, I think, probably see me. The sort of muppet that Goldman Sachs would ideally like as a customer. I think the truth is somewhere in the middle, hopefully more towards the left side rather than the right side. I have been working with PDF files since 1997, as I started out in publishing at News International, Rupert Murdoch's UK publishing arm. I hasten to add that I never had anything to do with the phones. I only ever hacked code, not phone calls. It was obvious to me that the PDF file format was a pretty cool thing, and it had lots of technical stuff to learn about. Let's be honest, we're all geeks here. We like something where there's lots and lots of really, really difficult stuff and we can get into it. I could spend lots of hours trailblazing in Java with fonts and images, compression formats and so forth. There was just so much stuff in there to learn. A geek's practice, paradise. I was so naive. So I decided to write a PDF library to handle PDFs in Java. I had a look around, and there was Etimon, which didn't do anything, and there was this free product called iText. I thought, no, I don't really want to compete with a free product, which is better than anything I can write. So I decided to go for a renderer. I had assumed it would take me 6 months or so, maybe 9 with slippage. You've probably heard this before on many IT projects. We're still working on it, and we'll give you a deadline when we've worked out when it'll be finished. The interest in HTML5 came as one of our big clients, a company called Abacus Research in Switzerland, asked us to write a PDF to HTML5 converter. We fell on the floors laughing. Then they asked us again. We said no. They got very aggressive. We said no. Then they asked us again very nicely, and we finally gave up because we just wanted a quiet life. Anyway, they wanted to put PDF content onto multiple platforms, and they wanted to do it this way, so it's a joint development with them. I'm going to give you an idea in my second talk about what HTML5 can do, what it can't do, and why it has some advantages and disadvantages. I'm also going to say where I think it's ahead of PDF, and also where I think PDF beats it. I'll be very controversial, and Leonard's promised he will let me have my say before the guys from Adobe arrive with the van to take me away. So thank you very much in advance. While I mention Abacus, I think they have a guy from Abacus here. Christian, are you here? That's Christian. They're doing some mind-blowing stuff on PDF. He's doing some amazing stuff on forms, so do grab him afterwards. I'm Mark, by the way. Thanks for the bug report. I am actually working in it on this moment. It's got my full attention. Okay, so I'll be talking in that talk about the reasons, benefits, and disadvantages of HTML5. IDR Solutions is currently 9 people. We set it up in 1999, and the code base contains contributions from 30 people. Most of us work around the UK, while Brendan works in Melbourne, Australia. Every time England loses cricket, or in December, we get lots and lots of messages from him. He tends to go quieter when Australia are losing. And when it's the summer, he likes to talk about the beaches. I enjoy doing conferences, especially in really nice places like Ghent. So thank you for inviting me here. Maybe you'll invite me back one day when you've all forgotten. I tend to talk about aspects of Java and PDF. I did do a talk, however, which had absolutely nothing to do with Java or PDF, which was entitled Asteroid Impact, Are You a Large Lizard or Small and Furry? Ever since then, my talks have had a slight reputation for kittens appearing in them, so you will notice a few kitten pictures. I apologize in advance for that. The talk had very little to do with Java or PDF. You will also notice, actually, that I wear the same shirts for the talks. A hint for the iText guys is we make more money off the brand merchandising, the baseball caps and the lifestyle products than we actually do off the code, so you might want to try that. There was actually a very infamous meal at one Sable conference in San Francisco, where we were all milling around after a fire alarm outside, and Leonard organised a spontaneous dinner at a restaurant that evening. The techies all sat around all night discussing PDF and programming. I'm told it was really dull for the non-technical people there, and all attempts to move the conversation onto any other topic, the food, San Francisco, the barmaids, whatever, all failed as we all just wanted to talk about ICC color spaces. We thought we'd arrived in heaven. I think everyone else thought it was probably the opposite place. I do actually have a life and a family and discuss things other than PDF when I get the chance. I have a degree in medieval history from the University of St Andrews. One of my proudest boasts is I spent 4 years living in the home of golf and never actually got round to playing it on the world's most famous course. So if I can't answer your PDF questions, I can certainly bore you with historical trivia, or which I learnt whilst I should have been doing more important things like playing golf. So please ask me about Java, ask me about PDF, ask me about running a business, or anything which happened before 1500 AD, but not golf. I'm not hot on golf. As in life, so with PDF files, nothing is ever quite as it seems. Don't you just hate those company websites where they have all the stock images, and there's usually a young, pretty female receptionist waiting eagerly to take your call, and a dynamic superhero guy who spends his entire weekend thinking of nothing other than how he can solve your pressing problems and give you the best solution. Actually, there's only one cat at IDR Solutions called Mabel, and she spends most of her time asleep. So let's get behind all of these stock images and views of PDF and dive in. PDF was based on the markup language PostScript, developed by John Warnock, and shares many similarities. What makes PostScript really different is that the files do not contain the content, but rather the PostScript program, which when run will generate the content. That's an important distinction. It does not give you the page, but the program to write the page. PDF files are similar in that they contain the raw contents which need to be assembled together to make the page, and I'm going to show you some of those aspects in more detail. So you cannot just do a search and replace in PDF and try and change things. The page does not actually exist until you parse all the contents and assemble it. PDF came out of PostScript, and in many ways it's a simplified form of PostScript, and it borrows many ideas from it. The Bible of the PDF format is a PDF reference guide, which is now the ISO 32000 spec. You can always spot us PDF developers, because we have a copy of this, normally with the front cover torn off, which is very well thumbed. And I don't know if you've ever read any parts of it. Anyone ever read the PDF spec? Obviously, a lot of people with much better things to do. All versions of the PDF file format are backwards compatible, and the book gets bigger and bigger with each release. For my university course, I had to read some fairly dull books, and I can assure you that the PDF reference guide is not something for light relaxation. It's also the sort of book where once you actually understand what it says in the reference guide, you don't actually need to read the reference guide because you understand the problem. So it's not very good as a manual telling you how things work. It just describes it in precise detail. It's a bit like a dictionary. It gives you precise definitions, but not how it all fits together. It's a bit like trying to learn French by just getting a French dictionary and looking at all the words. To understand how PDF works, I would like to run through what happens when you load a page from a PDF file and compare it with other file types. In something like Word, a Word file, the software will essentially have to load the whole file to find out how many pages it concerns. So you'll open your document in Word and you'll see the nav bar on the right-hand side going as it works through the files. With a PDF file, all the pages are already defined. So you just need to read the page table, which tells you where all the objects exist, find out where page 1124 starts, and skip to that. This is why PDF is much faster to load. Each page is essentially what we call random access. We don't have to read the first 123 pages to get to 124. Let's talk about that in a little more detail. A PDF file actually contains lots of PDF objects, and I'm going to show you some of those in different ways later. A PDF page is a PDF object of type page, which references all the things that you find on the page. So we just read that, and we read the objects that it references, and we can decode the page. A PDF is what we programmers call a tree. I don't know if when you did your programming, you learned all the trees, data structures. It's essentially a linked list of objects, and the PDF file is just the data dump of all those objects, along with a table telling you where you can find them. You do not need to read all of them from start to end. You just load the bits that you need as and when you need it. When we load the file, we read the table telling us where the objects are. We read the identity of the root object. Then we can read the tree. We can read down the tree and scan very quickly to what we need. So let's look at the PDF file in a text editor. This is a PDF file, as you probably don't spend your time looking at it. This is what you will see if you open the PDF reference guide in a text editor. The PDF is very much a hybrid data structure with binary and text parts. So there's some text that I can read fairly easily, and there's some very odd characters that don't make no sense to me. That's the binary part. Some parts can be read easily, some will just look like random rubbish to us. Do not save the file. The reason for that is if you alter a single byte of the file, all the pointers could be wrong, and I'm going to come back to that later. At the start of the file, you can see the version number. So in this file, you can see it's version number 1.6. It will be interesting to see what they put at the top line when we have ISO 32000-2. So I'm looking forward to seeing, can Leonard give us a sneak? 2.0. And then probably 2.1, 2.01. So if you ever need to quickly check a PDF file, you can open the file, scan the first line, and the version number is there. Very simple, very easily. Obviously, I don't want to get involved in any controversy here, so I'd like to make the point that it looks equally good in any text editor of your choice. Okay, at the end of the file, I've now jumped to the end of the file in the text editor, we can see we have an end of file marker. And the location of the ref table that's telling us the location of the objects. So I'm told that the ref table starts at byte offset 129. So a PDF viewer or iText or whatever is going to be doing this, loading the objects. Interestingly, the end of the file marker does not have to be at the exact end of the file. It only has to be in the last 1024 bytes. So you can have any amount of random rubbish after that, so long as it's less than 1024 bytes in length, the file is valid. In general, the PDF file format does not insist on strictly enforcing most rules. If you more or less get it right, Adobe Acrobat will try to figure out what you meant, and the PDF file will be regarded as okay. After all, it opens as Acrobat. It must be a valid PDF file. This makes life much harder for people like me in the iText crowd, because we spend half our life trying to sort out these wretched files because the Adobe Reader opens it correctly. Before the end of the file is the start pointer, as I've said. So if we go to byte offset 129, we will find a table telling us the objects. You can have more than one table in a file, so you can see there's a second table here. I'm going to talk more about that on a later slide. Any guesses what that byte offset is from the start of the file? It is 129. We're into the file, we got the first table. And this file tells me that this table contains 817 objects. And the first object is PDF object 333276. And this tells me where they start in the file. So object 333276 starts at byte offset 16. Surprisingly, I'm prepared to bet that's 16 bytes from the start of the file. That tells me the generation number. It's often not used, and that tells me that this object is live. So if I read this table, I just have to read the table and I can know where. I could have a PDF file with 1 billion objects in, hypothetically. I haven't tried it. And all I have to do is to read the tables and they tell me where they are. Okay, let's go down back to the bottom. We've got a second table here. One of the cool things about the PDF format is that you can create multiple tables and create new versions of objects, and it'll just bolt them on. What I need to know is I need to know the root object, the first object on the PDF tree, and you can see down here, root object 333277. 0 tells me the generation, and R tells me it's a reference. Some of this is quite technical, so I'm going to repeat it in different ways several times, and you're welcome to ask questions at the end. I can also tell there's another table because there's a prev entry here that tells me there's a previous table starting at this location. So I can go back through the file, all the tables, I can find all of the latest versions of the objects, and then I'm able to read the file. We can very easily bolt on new versions of the pages just by appending a new version of the object, new reference table, and a new end of file pointer. Once I've read all the references, I can then scan the PDF tree very, very quickly. I know where to start. I can work my way down. Here's the table, same file. I decided you'd probably want to look at this in Acrobat rather than in a text editor. And you can see we've got the header at the top. We've got multiple tables boxed onto it. So this file's been updated, new content's been added onto it. You can either rebuild the file or you can just bolt new content onto it. It depends whether your objective is to edit the file as fast as possible or you want the smallest file. At the bottom of the page, you can see there's a note about object streams. From version 1.6, Adobe allowed you to put PDF objects actually inside other objects. This allows for better security and compression. It also means that you may not be able to find a particular object on the page because it's actually hidden inside some of this binary data we saw. It's also the reason, if you tried using Sun's PDF renderer, why it doesn't work on a lot of new files, because when the Sun team wrote their PDF renderer, they were using OpenOffice, or the subset of PDF for OpenOffice, and OpenOffice does not support this feature, so it can't understand them. Okay, here's the PDF root object. I've added returns to make it clearer. Again, we've got binary data, and something that looks understandable. You can see the root object starts with its ID, so it's object 333227, and then its generation is 0, and that's the start of the object. Most objects will have a dictionary, that's a set of key values. So you can see we've got page info is marked, we've got page mode is use outlines, we've got pages, that's an interesting one, that tells me where the list of pages are. So if I go to object 109805, I will get a list of all the pages, or the start of a list of all the pages for the PDF file. And similarly, if I want, there's a type. On the dictionary, most of the values can be strings, they can be another object, they can be text, they can be numbers, they can be indirect pointers to another object containing the text or the number value. You can also actually add your own keys to it. Creo, for example, generates PDF files where they add their own custom tags into the dictionary, and they obviously use them, but they are not used by anyone else. Okay, viewing objects in the text editor, bit hacky, bit messy. So wouldn't it be really nice if Acrobat had its own built-in viewer so that you could see all the objects to display them in a nice tree, and you could click around it. Here I've got a PDF reference opened in Acrobat 9 on my Mac. And hidden away under the advanced features, I've got the tree of data. So if I want to have a look into the PDF file, I can scan down, I can find the objects, I can click through them. The tool also does all the hard work, so I can actually look inside the binary streams, I can see the data, and I can see what's going on. I use it all the time for debugging files. It's neat, it's cool, and it's built into Acrobat. Obviously, if you just want to look at files generally, it's a bit expensive to buy Acrobat just to have an object viewer. There is a tool called PDF Edit on Linux which does it. InFocus had a really cool plugin that I used when I started writing PDF that allows you to similarly view the object tree. And I believe there's a guy in Belgium called Bruno who's written a tool that lets you view the PDF objects on a PDF file. So well worth checking out all those possibilities. Okay, PDF files on the web. We've said earlier that the marker is at the end. So my question here, isn't that a bit of a problem if we start putting them on the web? Because the whole point of this is we can load the file quickly. We can have a 10 meg file that loads like that. But if we've got to wait for the whole file to download across a stream connection, that's going to be a bit of a problem. You can't just jump to the end, because the URL sends you the data as a serial stream of bytes. So we have a special mode called linearized, which allows you to put data at the front, so you can display the first page, or whichever page the file you want to display first, before the file has finished loading. It's almost like building a mini one-page PDF onto the front of the PDF, so you can display that, and then quite often the user won't notice the lag, because by the time the user clicks on page 15, you've loaded it. You can also optimize which pages you put next. So if the contents page is the one most people go to, you can put that at the front so it's loaded. And most PDF viewers will allow you to display whatever pages are loaded. Obviously, you can't put every single page at the front. You have to choose which pages to optimize. Acrobat very nicely allows you to see whether the PDF file has been set up this way. There's an option at the bottom called Fast Web View, and you can see that this file is viewable in linearized mode. You can only use linearized mode to load a file if the file has been created with it in the first place. There are lots of functions in PDF that you cannot just switch on after you've created the PDF. So if you're going to use something, you need to bear it in mind and create the PDF with that feature. There are quite a few features in PDF like this. You will see another option called tagged PDF. And that is set to yes, which means it's been switched on. This includes lots of extra metadata in the PDF file, so that you can easily extract text from the file. I'll be covering this in more detail shortly. Again, it has to be used when the file is created. A lot of people say that Adobe files are no good for extracting text from. That's not actually true. What that means is if the file has not been set up properly, Adobe files are difficult to extract text from. If the file's been set up correctly, you can get virtually perfect XML out of the file. Okay, list of key takeaways from the PDF structure. I've just got a list to summarize it for you. We do not need to load the whole file. It's equally fast to load any part of it. It's very easy to replace objects with new versions. There are certain key locations, like the end of the file. You should not edit it in a text editor. If you want to use a PDF files across the internet, there is a special mode to make these load the most important parts first. Lots of features need to be set up to make them work correctly. Okay, I'm going to look at PDF objects in more detail now, and two particular types. So as I've said already, PDF files have an object number, a dictionary set of values, and some binary data. Here's a PDF object. Any guesses what it is? Subtype, image. So it's an image object. It's object 3003, and you can see the first part of the data is a set of keys which tell us about the image. The raw data is 2003 bytes long. The filter tells us the data is compressed using a DCT decode filter, and it's 8-bit. There are lots of different types of compression to suit different types of data. So black and white data will compress really well using what's called CCITT or JBIG2 compression, whereas color data, where you can lose information, may be better suited to DCT decoder. As Leonard said in his talk, they have built an awful lot of functionality to keep an awful lot of different groups happy for their specialisms. It's a CMYK image. So the data defines it using CMYK. And the actual image has a height of 158 pixels by 129 pixels. The X object type means that it's stored separately from where it's actually displayed. So I've got a raw image. When it's drawn, it could be very different. It could be clipped, it could be scaled, rotated, skewed, or it could have a mask or semi-transparency applied to it. So it may look very different from this raw image. As I said earlier with the PDF, you need to put all of it together. It's not a TIFF, it's not a JPEG, it's the raw data to assemble whatever image you need. Let's look at it in Acrobat Viewer. Here's the image, and apologize for the blurring. Here's the data, and again, Acrobat's let me pick up. That's color space, CMYK, color 8-bit. That's the decompressed raw data for the image. What you need, again, I will repeat it, is we do not have TIFFs, JPEGs, and PNGs or any other image built in. It's not a standard image type, it's the data. It consists of the actual pixel data stored in the image stream and compressed to reduce its size, along with details about its size, its color depth, and the type of color used. It gives tremendous flexibility, but it also means that if we want to extract the actual image, we have to put all the bits together. The DCT decode is actually the same format used by JPEG images, so you could actually save this data out, but it only works with some color spaces. Here's the raw data for a YCCK image, which is actually an orange bowl. And because I've saved it out and tried to interpret it as a JPEG DCT, you can see it's probably not what the guy intended. So in general, there are no images in PDF files. Okay, I'd like to talk a word on color. If you spend most of your life working with digital content, you may not think very much about color because we just work with sRGB. PDF is far more elaborate. PDF is designed to be used by lots of different groups, like printers, who work in terms of CMYK or Pantone or separation color spaces. This nice colorful list is the way you can define color in a PDF. There are actually far more because several types of color let you define your own variations. CMYK, for example, also includes YCCK, which you saw in the previous page. Most of them can also be indexed, and you can specify an alternative color space to use. Each one offers some critical advantages to certain types of users. This topic gets horrendously complex, and companies who have an expert on the subject usually tend to keep him under secure lock and key in a vault somewhere. Translating colors is a bit like translating images. I believe the Eskimos have 17 different words for what we call snow. And I once worked with some Italians who wrote a publishing system for Unisys, and they were trying to explain an Italian word to me for which there was no English word. And they explained it's a sort of work-ish, where you turn up, you sit at your desk, and you don't do very much. We don't have that word in English, but apparently there's an Italian word to describe it. In other words, you may not get the exact match on these color spaces, and there are different ways to translate them, depending on what matters to you is speed, accuracy, memory usage, and so forth. If you'll move between color, you need to appreciate that. Okay. Something that most people new to PDF don't get is that PDF pages are drawn. Here you can see the data from this page, and I'm going to show you what it looks like. Okay, let's go through that. Let's be seriously geeky and run through what's going on here. Okay, first of all, we have a command to set the CMYK color of the text to black. Actually, there's two different blacks. That could be 111, or it could be 0001. Then we start some text. We choose a font, which we've defined elsewhere. We set up the text properties, how much we want the text spaced, what type of drawing we're going to do. We tell us where we want to draw it on the screen. So it's going to be drawn at offset 272, 540. We draw some text, L star. We change font. We move to a different location. We draw some more text. We move to another location. Then we draw some more text. One of the really powerful features of Acrobat is that we have very, very precise typographical control. So if we want to insert a little gap between the letters T and the letter E, we can just add a small amount of extra gap in there and we can put it between any letter. It's very powerful. But what you will not have seen is any spaces, paragraphs, or structures like that. That text happens to look like text. That is accidental. It's actually an index pointing to the text. Because one of the ways of encoding the data uses the ASCII values for the indexes, in Win encoding you can see the data. If it was Mac or other encoding, you'd get some funny square blocks there. But you mustn't think of that as text. That's a binary index to look up the text. Here's the PDF, and we've created this as marked content, which I mentioned earlier. And that allows us to put extra information so that we can very easily extract it. So we've got a BDC EMC tag. It allows us to tell ourselves, can't reach, but there's actually a P tag in there that tells us that this is a paragraph, which means it's very easy for me to extract pretty much perfect XML because I've got metadata in the stream telling me what's going on. But if it's not put in there, it can't be extracted later. Okay, time for some kittens. PDF myth, files across platform. They are, if you do them right. One of my pet hates with PDF files is that some tools let you create a PDF with local fonts on your machine. The PDF file format has some very powerful font capabilities. But if you don't put the fonts into it, this is a font called Malinka, which as you can see is kittens. If you don't put that, embed that in the PDF, and again, the PDF has a really cool feature where it will only embed the characters, the data for the characters that you need, not all the font data. It won't necessarily display. Acrobat will always try and do its best, but if the data's not there, it can't use us. There are some horrible tools out there, particularly on the Windows platform, which don't do the fonts. Okay, this one comes up surprisingly often. I've hidden the password so that no one will be able to guess what the password is. I've now opened it in Acrobat in the tool on Acrobat Reader. And as you can see, the password is iText. I could, of course, also have selected the text. So if you're going to hide data on a PDF, make sure you do it properly. Not all PDF creation tools are equal. There are some really, really good PDF creation tools out there and some really horrible ones. My heart sinks when I see a PDF created with certain tools. PDF file tools produce very, very different quality PDFs. Some PDFs are actually just a wrap around an image. Some PDFs, they actually rasterize the PDF into 1 pixel high tiled images, and then they draw the page. Some of them set it out with marked content, proper fonts and everything. So if you want to make the most of the PDF format, choose a tool that generates decent PDF. Obviously, I would recommend the one on the left or the one on the right. PDF file format's very powerful if you create it. In summary, it's a very powerful format for creating high-quality content. There's lots of things you can do. If you understand how it works, particularly with images and text, it will make a lot more sense, and also you can play to its strength. And the next time you see a question about irregular tables from non-structured to PDF on Stack Overflow, you can manage a wry smile, and you will know how to reply. And when Leonard next organizes that dinner in San Francisco, you will be able to join in the conversation. Okay, that's my first talk. I hope I haven't lost people too much.